Hello and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and I love indie makeup, especially shiny, shifty, and sparkly eyeshadows. And today I'm going to be talking about new multi-chromes that came out from Lethal Cosmetics. So exciting to see more brands coming out with multi-chromes. They did have a palette that released a couple of months ago called the Berlin palette, and that one had a black base multi-chrome in it. I do not have that palette, but I did have to just pick this one up and try these multi-chromes out for you. They're an indie brand based out of Germany, and there's not a lot of European brands that carry multi-chromes, so I wanted to see if these were a really great option for those of you who are from Europe and might not have access to multi-chromes from the American indie brands, or if the shipping is too high. I totally understand. So they released 9 multi-chromes, and you could buy them in this bundle for I think it was like slightly discounted price of $146. And then these retail $16.50 each USD. And we've got a nice mixture of some black based multi-chromes, some more almost gray based or deep iridescent, if you're familiar with those two formulas from the other brands. And then we have 2 iridescent multi-chromes, so we've got a nice variety. And of course, I'm going to be pairing the multi-chromes with Lethal's mattes. I have pretty much almost all of their matte eyeshadows, and that's some of the newer ones from the newer palettes, but it only makes sense to pair them together, and I love their mattes. So let's get right into some swatch comparisons and then the 3 looks that I created with these multi-chromes, and then at the end of the video I'll give you some of my thoughts. Top is Genesis from Lethal, under that is Eternal from the Giant Wolves palette. From Odin's Eye and Annette's Makeup Corner collaboration. Below that is Sleepyhead, The Cosmos from Terra Moons, and below that is a Lunar Spectrum from Terra Moons, which that one is an iridescent multi-chrome. And you can definitely see it is very translucent compared to these other. They do slightly just have that turquoise base. But these are all very similar. You can see the different textures. The Cosmos is pretty flaky in the pan. Sleepyhead is super finely milled, but it does have quite a bit of sparkle. It does need a base. I did swatch this over their Fix Potion just because it is a loose pigment, so you have to use something with it. And then Eternal is just super smooth, very slick and silky, especially compared to Genesis. Genesis is just the least shiny out of all of these. Next up, we've got these amazing multi-chromes that have become extremely popular in 2021. First one is Dark Matter from Lethal, then Lights Out from Carla Cosmetics, which this one is a loose pigment, so it is on top of their Fix Potion. Then we have Something Wicked from Pariah House, and Blood Moon, of course, from Terra Moons, which is the first one of this shade that I ever got. Devinah just released one that is exactly like this as well. Unfortunately, I don't have it yet to swatch. And then Copacetic Cosmetics also has one that I ordered, so that should be here at some point, so I will be doing comparisons in the Copacetic video. But these are all pretty much the same. It seems like this is the type of pigment that is just satin. All of these are pretty satin. I think Lights Out might be the shiniest out of all of them, but even then it did dull out on my lid quite a bit when I put it on. So it could just be a little bit shinier from the swatches, but these overall are very satin and they become almost completely matte to very little bit of a satin on the lid. Next up at the top is Proxima from Lethal. Then we have Blaze from Clionadh. And below that is Damsel in Distress from Touch of Glam Beauty. And none of these are even remotely close. I thought maybe in the pan they look a little similar. I don't think I really have anything exactly quite like Proxima. So this one is pretty unique. And you can see this one did amp up a bit. So this one looks a little bit less satin compared to the other 2 shades that I swatched before this. Next up, FRB from Lethal at the top. Ochre, which is a deep iridescent multi-chrome from Clionadh, the 10th, and then below that the 19th, which are both from Touch of Glam Beauty. Obviously the 10th is a bit darker, so never mind that one. I think FRB is just a little bit more translucent and has even more of a lighter base than Ochre. From initial swatch, I thought that these would be the most similar by the way that they look in the pan and the way that FRB swatched, because it doesn't really have a strong base to it. Next up is Retrograde from Lethal at the top, then M51 from Terra Moons, then Verte from Clionadh, and below that is a Big Bang from Terra Moons. And Verte and Big Bang definitely were the first ones that came to mind because of the way they look in the pan compared to Retrograde. But as you can see, M51 is basically a direct dupe to Retrograde. It's shinier, and even in the pan it looks more flaky versus Retrograde looks smoother. But M51 does completely smooth out on the lid, so it's not really an issue of flakiness, but it does seem to be just a bit more shiny, a bit more sparkly. And Verte and Big Bang are obviously dupes to each other, but not to M51 or Retrograde. Next up, we have Event Horizon at the top from Lethal Cosmetics. Below that is Kiln from Clionadh. Then Urgent from JD Glow, Centauri from Terra Moons, and Sandblast all the way at the bottom from Clionadh again. Sandblast, I would say, is nowhere near close to just the magenta that you can see straight on. Kiln and Urgent look so much shinier than some of these other shades. Centauri's pretty shiny as well. Event Horizon does have that nice smoothness to it. But overall, I feel like these kinds of colors I haven't seen really like extremely shiny. Next up is Nebula at the top from Lethal. Trefoil from Clionadh. Obviously that one's not even close. And then Seaweed from JD Glow, Exosphere from Devinah, and Hemisphere from Devinah. Hemisphere also not even close, so I think these would be most similar to Seaweed and Exosphere. I think Seaweed and Exosphere are like by far like sparklier though. They're still really smooth, but they just have like a certain way to them. I'm not sure if that's gonna translate, but Nebula is pretty metallic and pretty smooth. Next up is Ceres and Chill from Carla Cosmetics, which is a loose pigment and it is over a fixed potion. Then we have Marama from Devinah, Space Baby from Terra Moons, and Flores from Terra Moons. And I think these are all pretty viable dupes to this shade. I would like to point out that Marama is much flakier than all of these in the pan, and Flores is also just a little bit on the chunky side, and I think Ceres is the closest to Flores in terms of texture. It is very shiny, very beautiful. It does smooth out when you swatch it, just like most of these other shades, though Marama does stay just a little bit on the chunky side even as you smooth it out. Pretty much direct dupes tone-wise and shift-wise. Last shade is Parallax. Then below that is Teddy Bear from Carla Cosmetics over their Fix Potion. Below that is Proteus from Devinah, and then Lightyear from Terra Moons. And last is Lux from Clionadh. These are all pretty much direct dupes. Textures are a little bit different again. Lightyear, Lux, and Parallax are pretty smooth and pretty similar in texture. Proteus is the flakiest by far in the pan especially. It does smooth out, but it just does leave a little bit of flakiness all around. And then Teddy Bear is super, super finely milled pigment. Obviously definitely needs some sort of a base to it. First look, I'm priming with the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer. And right in the crease, I'm going to go in with Nocturnal from Lethal Cosmetics. Of course, I'm going to be using their mattes to go with the Multichromes. I'm just going to mostly pat it in. I do have some shimmer left over on my brush. This is the Blends Bunny B1 brush. Next, I'm taking Void, and I'm going to blend it into that on the edge. It's going to get a little murky, isn't it? I think I should have went in with the green first. I'm just going to stamp it on. Get really true pigmentation and blend it downwards. Actually, I think I should have blended downwards. There we go. Taking some light powder, and I'm just gonna go over the edges with a larger, fluffier brush, and just gonna stamp on a little bit more out here. I'm actually gonna stamp it downwards like I was doing. This seemed to work nicely. Going back in with Nocturnal. I'm just going to be stamping it again. I feel like I've done pretty much the same look with this kind of multichrome at this point, so I'm just trying to do something a little bit different. And I didn't want to go in straight with a black eyeshadow. I'm kind of leaving it for the outer corner. So next, going in with Transmutation on the outer corner. This shade is actually a true black. Nocturnal is like a really, really deep, cool toned brown, even though it kind of looks like it's gray now in my crease. But I'm just gonna tap it on to my outer corner, and I'm just gonna blend it outwards out here. Next, I'm taking the Fairnay Pixie Epoxy, and I'm just gonna take it almost all the way across my whole lid. I picked up some Dark Moon, and I'm just gonna stamp it on. I should have probably waited to do my base before this eyeshadow especially. And I'm just kind of tapping it but swiping it at the same time. This is an interesting combination with the green, but it is something different. I feel like it's really not shiny at all, so I'm gonna go in with my pinky because you can see like it's a lot more, I mean, it's still satin. It seems like this shade is always satin. But yeah, that definitely helped. It's got more of a sheen now. And just adding on a bit more. I'm just gonna take it all the way into the outer corner here as well. Finishing off this look with Nocturnal under my lower lash line. feel like that's dark enough. I don't think I need to go in with the black shade. And just kind of winging it out in the outer corner here. For the inner corner highlight, I'm going to use Parallax. It doesn't necessarily go, but I wanted to see this shadow in action. It is really sparkly, really shiny, really beautiful. I'm actually going to go with Void under my lower lash line. In there. I'm going to blend it into the dark shade. The edges. Here a little bit more. Put on the Alter Ego lashes in Posh, and in the waterline I have Gotcha, and in the waterline I have the Gotcha liner from LA Girl. For the second look, we're actually going to do a very pastel eyes. It's going to be quite the contradiction to the first look. Priming with the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer again. Going in with sequins, I'm going to put that into the inner half of my crease and blend it up. Blending it up and out. And just a little bit more. And then next to it, going in with Proxy. Whoa, okay. I felt like I wasn't prepared for that level of pigmentation. The purple took a little bit more building up, that's why. Just blending that out. And then taking Inertia, and I'm gonna deepen out this outer corner. It's not gonna be like really deepen out, but it's gonna be definitely more than that light blue, turquoise I was using. And I'm just going back in with this smaller, fluffier brush. And just feathering that out on the outer corner. Next I'm taking the Fair & Pixie epoxy again and just put it all over my lid, and then I like to tap it out, make sure I don't have too much on. Picked up Genesis, and it seems a bit hard pressed in the pan. So just going, ooh, that is such a cool shade. That is a really fun shade. Inner portion of my lid, and just kind of lightly taking it into the outer corner, but not too much. So that, again, not much of a sheen. Let me go in with my finger because it definitely has more of a sheen. I think I need to try some of these shades with a dampened brush. So let me just go in with my finger. I think that added a little bit more, but it's by no means like really metallic and shiny or even sparkly. Finishing off this look with Inertia under my lower lash line, and then sequins for the rest of it. And then for the inner corner highlight, going in with Series, which is funny because there's a shade named Series from Terra Moons. This one is so shiny, so much shinier than the lid shade for sure. It makes me actually want to really layer it over it. I put on the Alter Ego Posh lashes, and in the waterline I have the Crybaby eyeliner from ColourPop. For the third look, priming with the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer. Going in with a Replica from Lethal. I'm just going to put that into the crease. This is going to be a pretty simple look. We're doing a half cut crease. And I'm going to deepen this up just a little bit with Habitat. Again, straight into the crease. And blending it into that light green. I'm going to deepen out the outer corner with Eden. And just feather out this edge. Next up, I picked up Retrograde, and I sprayed my brush, so I'm not using any sort of a tacky primer for this. I'm just going to use this to do a half cut crease. So just going above my hood, and then making sure when I relax, you can still see the shadows. I have to take it a little bit higher out here as well. And then going in with Nebula, again, just spray my brush, and that is super nice and metallic. Really beautiful. And I'm blending it into that green above it. Finishing this look with Eden under my lower lash line. And then a replica right next to that. And I put Aquamarine in my waterline from Beauty Creations. And here's the finished look. So I feel like between swatching and applying some of these, I have a good idea which of these shades I would recommend and which not so much, because I would not recommend all of these shades. Unfortunately, I was a little bit disappointed with the first two shades I used for the first two looks, and that would definitely be Genesis. It's just not really metallic at all. It's pretty dull. It looks even more dull on the lid. That one just really is not my favorite in terms of the formula, because I love this color. I love Eternal from the Ode Inside collaboration palette with Annette's Makeup Corner. That's such a shiny, super sparkly shadow that this one really just doesn't even compare. I just really feel like Genesis is not worth $16.50 for just how satin it looks on the lid. And as for Dark Matter, it seems like this type of shade is just always a satin, and it satins out even more on the lid to the point where it's almost like not even shiny at all. And that is just the case for all of these shades that I compared to this. So if you do want to buy this for the shade and you are European based and you just don't want to have to buy these from one of the American indie brands, then definitely go for that. But just keep in mind that this shade is always going to be more of a satin. It is still such a really interesting shade. I love it. I hope to see in general a lot more multichrome shades like this in 2022. And then the iridescent shades are really shiny. They really pack a punch. So sparkly shiny. They feel a little bit looser in the pan just due to the pigment particle size, but they're by no means like chunky or anything like that. They're not going to accentuate any skin texture. And then this shade up here, I don't remember the name of this one, but I did not use that one on the lid, so obviously take that with a grain of salt. But that one is pretty unique to my collection, so I'm excited to try that one on the lid. I really love the two shades that I used on my lid, and I think that some of these that are dupes to the deep iridescent multichromes from Clionadh, as well as the gray based multichromes from Terra are great options to have, so I would recommend those. So I think those are all my thoughts so far, and I will let you know if there's any shades that I end up trying out and not liking, or that I end up liking. I will be definitely trying to do some Reel/TikToks with the other shades that I did not use in this video. So make sure you're following me on Instagram and on TikTok if you're interested in seeing more tutorials with some of these other multichromes. I was really hoping that these multichromes would be a really great shimmer formula, because Lethal's regular shimmers are not exactly my favorite, and I've heard that from a lot of other people. People really seem to say they love the mattes but not so much the shimmers, so I was really hoping for these multichromes to be a knockout. Most of these are, but not all, and that is something to keep in mind with the $16.50 price tag per shadow. It is pretty on par with most other indie brands. So let me know in the comments below if you picked any of these up. What do you think of them? Are you planning on picking them up? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribe. There's so much indie makeup content uploading on my channel. Lots and lots of multichromes and much more to come. You don't want to miss out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.